Great state of California came to us and said, hey, we're going to find you $2,500 per location that you have in California because you're acting as a franchise and you're not. At the time, I think we had like 30 or 40 locations times $2,500. That was more money than I ever had in the bank. Dealing with that unknown, not knowing what California was going to say, having to go back and forth with an attorney and barter with the attorney because I didn't have much money, negotiate that with him, go to the state of California. That was adversity that I had to deal with. And when there is no hope, you have to have faith. Wake up that day expecting a letter to be served to me from the state of California, but it might be part of a greater plan. Because for me to become the highest version of myself, the best version of a leader, the best version of an entrepreneur, the guy that's going to ultimately years later end up on Inc. 5000, Inc. 500, Entrepreneur Magazine's top 200 franchises in the world. For that guy to become that guy, I had to go through this. In the absence of hope, you have to rely on faith. And if you have faith, then I will execute until my dying breath. You start seeing a little glimmer of something at the end of that tunnel, and as you keep stepping forward, it gets brighter and brighter, and you go, holy hell, that's light.
Remember, adversity is your advantage.
My man B, welcome back.
We are back.
All right, here we go. Leading through adversity. Adversity is something we face as entrepreneurs, as business owners, as change makers. And since I got you in the studio, B, we're going to talk a little bit about the adversity that you've been through and probably some key areas of your life, like your childhood, like your first business endeavor, like Fit Body Boot Camp, like TrueLane, like Fitness Business Summit, a lot of stuff. So why don't we unpack that?
Yeah. So I think that's a great topic to unpack. As entrepreneurs, business owners, and leaders, adversity is almost akin to, metaphorically, I can explain it this way. Adversity is to your mental and emotional muscles as treadmill and the weight room and machines in a gym are to your physical muscles, like your biceps, triceps, chest, quads. If you want to develop your muscles on your body, you're going to go to the gym and push yourself through adversity. You get sweaty, it burns, it hurts. You know you have a couple more repetitions in the tank, but you do really want to push through? Yes, you do. You've already planned out the workout. Maybe it's going to be 7 exercises, a total of 30 sets or whatever. You can cut short, but you're not gonna. And so there's all these conversations you have with yourself in the gym to push through. Sweat, feel the burn, get discomfort, and then you've got the delayed onset muscle soreness, right? 2-3 days later, you're achy, you're sore on those muscle groups that you trained. Well, adversity for an entrepreneur, leader, business owner is very similarly a developer of the mental and emotional muscles. Like if someone wants to become mentally tough, emotionally resilient, become more decisive, like better at making decisions, faster at making decisions, which is what we need to do. If an opportunity comes up or a problem comes up, you can't think about it all day while you're losing money. You've got to make a decision. Adversity is the stimulus, just like weight room is for the muscles. Adversity is the stimulus for mental and emotional muscles that builds the grit, resiliency, and all those things that a leader, entrepreneur needs to thrive. The difference is, here's the magical part. The difference is, as an entrepreneur, you don't know what exercises are on the agenda today, right? You know this to be true. You don't know how long that workout is going to be. You don't know how many sets and reps are left. You don't know how heavy the weight will be. You don't know how long the distance will be. Whereas in the gym or on a treadmill or on a hike, someone goes, hey, we're going to go 3 miles today. You go, great. I've already clocked 2 miles, 1 mile to go. As an entrepreneur, those mental and emotional muscles, they're built under the unknown stimulus. And it is that unknown that builds so much toughness in a way that no other reading books, taking courses, getting a master's degree in business development, none of those can match like real world adversity.
Amen to that. And the story of an entrepreneur is just laced with adversity. In fact, both of us share in this particular mindset around Stoic philosophy, really channeling the adversity and making it your advantage, actually.
Yes.
And the topic of my book that's coming out later this year, which I'm so pumped for you to forward and whatnot, is really about self-leadership. It's about a journey of turning adversity to your advantage. So B, from your perspective, when did you kind of realize that, like, hey, while adversity is challenging to go through, there is some benefit to it. I want to start there. And then I want to unpack a little bit about your adversities as an entrepreneur, because let's face it, someone who's watching this, they have gone through adversity. They're going to go through more adversity,
Yeah.
especially if they're going to launch an open business. So I want to give them a little guide, a little premonition of what's to come.
Yeah. So my first experience, unfortunately, with adversity that I was able later to turn into a superpower, right, was between the ages of 4 and 6. I think I've talked about this on the show here. I was molested as a little boy in Armenia. I was molested over and over again by 2 older boys, and when that happens to you, and while it was happening, you just end up disassociating from your body. So you mentally check out and go elsewhere while that's happening. When I worked with Kevin Downing, our shared therapist, he was like, yeah, that's called disassociation. When someone's going through any kind of abuse, mental, physical, emotional, sexual abuse, they check out, right? You normally see like they almost have dead eyes. They check out, and it's a way of your body, your brain trying to protect you. And so you think like, well, wait, how is this beneficial? Well, later on in years when I became a young entrepreneur, I'm 50 now, so we're talking, 30 years ago, I became a young entrepreneur. You could look at as disassociation as compartmentalizing, right? Putting something that is happening, a problem that is happening, putting it away to deal with a bigger problem, or to just avoid this problem for the time being, just to survive, right? The problem is survival in my case as a young boy.
Totally.
And so, as a young entrepreneur in my early 20s, I had this incredible ability, I didn't even know it, to compartmentalize things. So, you're starting a young business, and you have problems in marketing, you have problems in sales, you have problems in, actually product or service delivery to your clients. All of those problems are a priority, but if you can find the one that's the highest priority, you now have to compartmentalize or disassociate from the other problems to solve the biggest problem that you have, right? And so I was really good at that, and I didn't even realize it until years later. Jim Franco, my first mentor, was like, man, you're really good at just like kind of compartmentalizing and then prioritizing your problems and then chipping away at them, right? And I was like, huh. Only years after that, Kevin Downing was like, oh, you're like a master compartmentalizer. That's disassociation. It probably comes from that, and you've used it as a superpower in business. Think about all the problems we dealt with during COVID, the pandemic year, right? Years, exactly. So, you're dealing with employee issues, you're dealing with franchisee issues, you're dealing with money issues. We're running out of money. I'm having to sell off properties, empty out bank accounts. I mean, the problems, we're getting fined left and right for defying, these mandates and stuff. All of those were problems. But one of the greatest compliments you've given me is, man, we would walk into those 2 meetings every single day, the L10 meetings, and you're like, man, you were cool as a cucumber. And because the way you led, we as a leadership team felt like, okay, we're in good hands. We have a good path. We're just going to keep executing. Well, it was a process of prioritize and execute, because I was able to say, this is the problem we need to solve right now. Here's the 20 other problems that exist, but right now we need to compartmentalize. And so that was my first experience with adversity that ended up being a superpower. Since then, many problems have presented themselves. Starting Fit Body Bootcamp, you want to talk about, we've talked about this before, in the first, I believe, year and a half, we were a licensed program. So not a franchise like we are now, we were a licensing program. And little did I know that by giving a protected territory away to our licensees, we had unknowingly crossed the line into becoming a franchise or acting as a franchise. The great state of California came to us and said, hey, we're going to fine you $2,500 per location that you have in California because you're acting as a franchise and you're not. At the time, I think we had like 30 or 40 locations times $2,500. That was more money than I ever had in the bank, right? And so that was adversity that I had to deal with. And dealing with that unknown, not knowing what California was going to say, having to go back and forth with an attorney and barter with the attorney because I didn't have much money, negotiate that with him, go to the state of California, try and compromise with the state of California by saying, what if I don't sell another new location until I officially become a franchise, and explaining why we were giving protected territories away so that, unlike CrossFit, that's a licensed program, affiliate program, our franchise or licensees don't have to be so close together and compete and crush each other. They can be complementing by having distance and work together. To the credit of the state of California, they were like, yeah, cool, awesome, that's great. Don't pay the fine, but don't sell another location until you become a franchise. Then a new adversity was developed because now I have to find a franchise attorney. And I ended up paying $84,000 that I didn't have to a franchise attorney. And I had to become a franchise as quickly as possible so that I can start selling new locations, right? But each one of those adversities, the state of California, the attorney that I was dealing with, negotiating and trying to find compromise with the state of California, finding the compromise and then having to now find a franchise attorney. Every single one of those were sessions in the gym that built mental and emotional toughness, resilience, grit, decisiveness, which, compounds over time, and you're able to lead an organization better. You're able to stay calm under chaos. And I think as leaders, if we can stay calm under chaos, the people that work for us and work with us can equally maintain coolness. And the cooler you are, the more competent you're going to be in executing whatever needs to happen to solve the problem at hand. And I think adversity is a superpower, as you say, right?
Yeah.
It is your advantage, but it's not fun to be in it. Like,
Well, that was my next question,
Yeah.
actually, because if someone's watching this right now and it's like, all right, B, Bryce, I get it. I'm going through a shitstorm right now.
Yeah.
I just don't see the light. I guess from your perspective, like, what's your coaching as they go through it? And then when do you actually connect the dots at the end? When did it occur to you in some of these instances, like, oh shit, like it was a horrible situation to go through, but I actually gained so much value because of it?
Yeah. So that term, hindsight is 2020, right? So you only have clarity when you're out of the shitstorm, right?
Yeah.
Looking back, like a year or two after that whole California licensing to franchising situation, I look back and I was like, man, I talked the state of California out of finding me, created a compromise, negotiated a compromise, and then found a franchise attorney, negotiated a deal with him so that I don't have to pay the whole $84,000 up front. I would pay chunks as he was doing the work. Like, man, that built a lot of confidence in me. Only years later you find that out.
In the state of California, friends.
Yeah,
this is not like-
business friendly.
No,
right?
not at all.
Yeah, and that's a good point that you bring up. So, but here's the cool thing about it, man, is you have to get a few of these under your belt. And in that moment, when it's happening, I'm like, all right, so there's a chance that we might have to file bankruptcy. We don't have $2,500 times 30 some odd California locations to give to the state of California. And they're saying, if you keep selling, we're going to stop you from selling by shutting down bank accounts, right? So it wasn't like they were like, don't do it, it will slap you on the hand. They're like, we will stop your source of income.
I mean, that sounds a little bit more like, say, California.
Yeah. So it's very scary. But in that moment, when you don't, you asked, what do you do when you're going down that tunnel? There's no kind of light at the end of that tunnel. And when there is no hope, you have to have faith. And I think that's the beautiful thing about faith. Faith comes from within. It comes from knowing that there's a creator who has a plan for you, and possibly this might be part of his elaborate plan. It's not part of my plan. I didn't wake up that day expecting a letter to be served to me from the state of California, but it might be part of a greater plan. Because for me to become the highest version of myself, the best version of a leader, the best version of an entrepreneur, the guy that's going to ultimately years later end up on Inc. 500, Inc. 5000, Inc. 500, Entrepreneur Magazine's top 200 franchises in the world, for that guy to become that guy, I had to go through this, right? And so God, your creator, universe, whatever you believe in had a greater plan for me. And so that is, in the absence of hope, you have to rely on faith. And if you have faith that I will execute until my dying breath, you start seeing a little glimmer of something at the end of that tunnel. And as you keep stepping forward, it gets brighter and brighter, and you go, holy hell, that's light. And then once you had a few of these adversities stacked up, you go, I think there's a formula. Each time I go through a hardship, in other words, each time there's a contraction, there's a great book out there. I forget the name of the book, but I think Peter Levine wrote it. He talks about the entire universe is all about contraction and expansion. For anything to happen, it has to first contract. In fact, look at what happened with the seasons. We have fall and then winter, right? everything shrinks. Trees lose their leaves, they lose their fruit. There's no babies being born in terms of like animals, right? And then spring comes about, and then new leaves come, and summer, and then boom, we have food, we have crops, we have baby animals, and etc. And so everything has to contract before it can expand bigger. So if this thing is the size of a beach ball right now, and I want it to become the size of a exercise ball, the beach ball has to first contract to then create space for the expansion. It's not fun because it's just metaphorically speaking. It's like, oh, that makes sense. With time, you don't know how much it's going to cost you. You don't know how painful it's going to be, and you don't know how long it's going to take. That contraction expansion phase, could take a long time. We thought COVID was going to last 30, what did it say? 2 weeks?
2 weeks.
2 weeks. Flatten the curve.
Flatten it. 14 days, baby.
14 days, you're going to open back up, right? But you and I were like, we don't trust this government.
Not so much.
Yeah, we're going to create workouts on the back end to let people train at home, et cetera. And it ended up lasting over a year.
Oh, yeah.
And so with that in mind, do you have the staying power? Each time you go through the dark tunnel, each time you overcome adversity, you develop this grit, this resilience, this mental, emotional toughness, and you become almost this durable human that can't be developed in any other way other than through contraction so that you can expand. And it's just the necessary evil.
That is the necessary evil of entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
Speaking of that, the last topic I want to hit, and I'm just genuinely curious, right? So we're talking about expanding and then contracting. Even in expansion, there can be a lot of pain, a lot of adversity, a lot of challenge. And I want to tee this up because I am genuinely curious, B. I've known you since 2012, and the first probably handful of years of knowing each other, you launched and ran this event called Fitness Business Summit.
Yeah.
And early this year, I was just out in Daphne, Alabama with our dear friend, franchise partner, Stephen Hadley, who is the creator of Fit Body Forever, an incredible program targeted for adults over the age of 60, which is just, creating massive impact and income for our franchise partners. And while I was there, we're shooting content, we had a conversation about, Bedros, our storied careers as franchise partners, and Fitness Business Summit, and how awesome the event was. I mean, I think I went from 100 the first time I was there, over 1,000 people.
Yeah.
B, you had performers. You were raffling off Land Rovers. I mean, just a wild circus. So from the outside, I mean, certainly that was expansion. There was a lot of growth there, but I'm sure there was adversity under the hood. So I want to just genuinely unpack that. And then also to provide a lesson to the audience that even in times of expansion, you still are going to face adversity you have to get through.
Yeah. And by the way, I'm so glad you brought that up because everybody on the outside only sees the expansion.
Yeah.
Right? No one sees the contraction. Like a lobster, they say a lobster, by the time a lobster becomes full grown, it has regenerated its shell 11 times. So each time it grows, the shell becomes tight, it grows, experiences a contraction, the shell breaks off. It's a naked little lobster, completely vulnerable and susceptible to all the different things that could happen to it. And then it grows a bigger shell. And it grows into that 11 times before it becomes a full-grown lobster. What we see is the full-grown lobster at the end. What we see is that. We don't see the shedding of the shell. We don't see the vulnerability. We don't see the pain that little guy went through. And so the reason Fitness Business Summit ever came to be was because I saw IDEA, Personal Fitness Professional magazine had an event, URSA, and when I say IDEA, URSA, PFP magazine, all these letters that I'm throwing out, they are fitness conferences for personal trainers and gym owners. And they would have experts get up on stage and talk to hundreds and thousands of gym owners and personal trainers. I've gone to a few of them. I've been in the audience. And while you're there, you can take some continuing education credits to keep your certification updated. You learn about the posterior chain, or Pavel comes from Russia and he talks about the kettlebell techniques that they're using in Russia that we can use in our gyms. And someone else like Alan Cosgrove takes the stage and he talks about working the posterior chain because it's so important to strengthen the posterior chain and have mobility in those hips and your lower back. And so we learn all about the human body, the adenosine triphosphate system, and where the muscles originate and insert, and the best compound movements to do, and all these things. But then I'd go back to my gym, and it was empty. I had no clients, or didn't have enough to have anywhere near the quality of life that I wanted. And so that's where, again, Jim Franco, my mentor, taught me how to sell and market. He was like, I'm going to assume you're a great gym owner and personal trainer. You know how to deliver results, but you're broke. I'm going to teach you how to market and sell. He changed my life. And it was after that that I ended up opening 4 more Premier Results gyms, my own brand of gyms back in early 2001, 2002. And it wasn't because of all the certifications, the posterior chain, the adenosine triphosphate system, or any of that stuff. It was because I knew how to use lead boxes, and I knew how to get leads, and I knew how to convert those leads into paying clients, and I knew how to ask my existing clients to give me referrals. And when they give me referrals, I gave them a commission, and then I would take their friend or neighbor or coworker, and I'd give them a free workout, and I'd sell them on a program, and I'd overcome the objections before they could even come up with the objections. And it was all stuff I did not learn at those 3 events. So I thought I would help the industry, Bryce. I thought I would do a favor to the industry by applying to speak at all 3 of the events, IDEA, URSA, and PFP conference. And all 3 of them sent me, this is, we're talking 2007, 2006. They all of them sent me a letter of rejection. No, we don't want someone talking about sales and marketing. If you want to talk about fitness, exercise, how to help people lose weight, gain muscle, we might consider your application. I was so fucking pissed because there's 20 other people over that weekend talking about all this bullshit, right? I say bullshit. I mean, obviously we need it, but it's bullshit because I got no money, man. I got to go be a bouncer at a gay bar. You remember this? I was a bouncer at a gay bar working as a personal trainer because I didn't have enough clients. I don't know any doctors that are also like a bouncer at a gay bar. I don't know any accountants that are bouncers at gay bars. I also don't know any cops that are bouncers at gay bars. But like personal trainers always have these side jobs because no one teaches us how to sell and market, right? And so I apply to be a speaker, and specifically my topic was going to be sales and marketing, and they all send me this physical letter of rejection, right? Like in the mail paper. And this is like, I had just started my blog, ptpower.com, personaltrainerpower.com, and so I took a picture with a big camera. There was no iPhones. I took a picture, iPhone had just come out the following year, of their letters of rejection, wrote a blog post about it, that, hey, our industry's upside down, it's stupid, it's retarded, simply because here I am, I figured out the secret to opening up 5 personal training gyms, making them massively profitable, and I know what it takes to get there, and it ain't the posterior chain or the adenosine triphosphate system. However, I got a letter of rejection from all 3 of these events. I'm considering putting on my own event. So the first adversity that I faced was rejection, right? No, we don't want you to speak. The next thing was, I'll put on my own event and just teach business development, sales, marketing, influence, and all those stuff to gym owners and personal trainers. I'm going to call it Fitness Business Summit, right? And so little did I know that you have to like get a hotel. When you get a hotel, there's like the price of the ballroom and food and something called plus tax, plus additional fees. That additional fee is 19%. So whatever the tax is, like let's say 6, 7, 8% sales tax, plus 6%, plus 19%. So when you think like the ballroom costs $20,000, right? So the first Fitness Business Summit, I didn't know how to sell anything from stage because I just thought your tickets, when you sell tickets to the event, that should make you the money that you need. And so while I had a coaching business for gym owners at the time, because I'd already sold off my 5 gyms, I didn't have a pitch. I just assumed they'll come up to me and go, man, you spoke so well at your event. Can we give you money to coach us? Exactly 0 people came up to me. And so I had 112 people at the first Fitness Business Summit. I had no stage, so only the people in the first 3 rows could see me. Everyone else was like craning their neck, right? I didn't know how to speak. I had not taken any, improv classes, speaking classes, Toastmasters, all the things that I've done now. Since then, I've had many speaking coaches. I did not know how to speak. I would just sweat profusely for 2 days on stage. And in fact, I had no sponsors for the event. You're supposed to have sponsors at the events. When we have the Fit Body Bootcamp World Conference, we have sponsors. Sponsors help offset the cost of an event, right? You can have tiered prices of tickets, general admission, VIP, VIP Platinum. They all have different access and experience. I didn't know any of that stuff. So the first event, I lost like $40,000. Here's the best part. One of my guest speakers, he knew how to pitch. I asked him to become a guest speaker. He pitched at my first event, Fitness Business Summit, And that fucker sold $70,000 of coaching services.
No shit.
Yeah. Yeah. So for the second event, I'm like, all right, guys, I think we need a stage. I think we need stuff to sell. Turns out there's sponsors that you can get, because then I started thinking, like, what do these other events have? Oh, yeah, they have sponsors. Like, it was common sense, but not so common. There was no playbook on how to run an event, right? But I share this with you because it wasn't until the third event, second event, we broke even. Third event, we started making money. So 2 years of facing adversity, running live events, and then trying to sell tickets to people. And then after that, you sell them a ticket and they're in another state, another country, saying you need to fly out to California. So now you got to buy airfare and a hotel and feed yourself and take time off from work or your gym, right? Like, that's a hard sell.
Oh, yeah.
Today online, you're selling courses and shit.
Oh, yeah.
You know, when you're trying to get people to an event, like we're trying to get people to BK Live.
BK Live, yeah.
It's you're not just buying the ticket. You also have to factor in flight, hotel, food. Do I have time to get away?
Yeah,
right?
time, yeah.
Yeah, all those things. And so all those things were adversities that I had to face. But by the third event, I was able to start selling my coaching services, and we actually started making money. By fourth and fifth event, we had 600-700 people. And then by the time we got to our sixth event, we had close to 1,000 people. And I told Joan, I was like, I want to give away a car. I want to say that if you come to Fitness Business Summit, you might be able to win a Land Rover.
Land Rover, baby.
Right?
Oh, yeah.
And so now it's like you finally have the formula of running a full-on event. The MC, speakers.
Lead magnet.
Lead magnet. Who speaks when? How much break in between? How long should lunch be? Do you provide lunch or do you send them out to lunch for your attendees, right? All those things are adversities that you deal with. Chaos is happening all throughout the 2 days.
Shit's breaking. Like, there's always stuff behind the scenes.
PowerPoint's going down. Yeah. Speakers are drunk.
late. Yeah, or drunk.
Dude, we had a drunk speaker. He was like, I need a steak to sober up. I'm like, you're a fitness guy. What the fuck happened to you, right? Like, so I'm like doing a song and dance on stage while this fucker's eating steak and potatoes backstage.
Sobering up.
Trying to sober up, man. But I share all this with you because those are the resistance. The adversity is the resistance that my event muscles needed to develop. And today we run big, badass events. We sell out events. We charge $5,000 for our VIP tickets and anywhere from like $400 or $500 to general admission. And we run these events like clockwork. But my whole thing was, and then just when you have everything figured out, you're like, I want to give away a Land Rover, right? And Joan's like, okay, check. I'll go get it done. So she finds a Land Rover dealer that's willing to bring a Land Rover to us. And the hotel's like, you can't just drive a car into a ballroom.
Oh,
We're
you
like,
did?
Yeah. Like, what do you mean? You got those big double doors that'll open up. They go, yeah, that thing has a battery and fuel, and it might combust and catch fire and death trap. There's a process to this. I go, there is? Because I'm like, I've been to car expos.
Oh, yeah.
Right? They go, oh, yeah, the fire marshal has to check the car off. So you have to, the tank has to only have this much gas in it. And then the car's battery has to be disconnected. And then professionals need to bring the car in. And then the fire marshal, once he checked it outside, he needs to check it again. And then a pan needs to be put underneath in case this brand new Land Rover decides to leak oil, right? And all these people, by the way, are different experts that have to get paid a different amount of money. So again, more adversity. But that is what you are required to do if you want to stand out, grow, reinvent yourself, and keep wowing the audience. Otherwise, you're just going to, if you're like, well, this is how we've always done it. We've had an event. It's 2 days long. It's one ticket price. No sponsors. Soon it's like if you can't evolve, you're going to perish, and that's what happens.
Totally. In that situation, adversity crushes you
Yeah.
instead of using it as fuel to ultimately make it your advantage.
That is true, because adversity can crush you.
Oh, yeah.
If you, our dear friend Jason Redman, retired Navy SEAL,
Badass.
says that he found himself in a battle where he was on the X while they were going there to kill some bad guys that were making roadside bombs. Him and his fellow SEALs at like 2 a.m. Little did he know that just 20 yards away, hiding in the brush, were the bad guys who knew they were coming with machine guns. And he thought that him and his fellow SEALs were going to put the bad guy on the X, meaning kill them, capture them. He found himself on the X. He was shot 7 times across his body, once in the face, survived 40-some-odd surgery. That man had to deal with a lot of adversity. Cool. But sometimes you will find yourself on the X, and if you sit on the X long enough, you will die. But the X is adversity. Whether you sit on it long enough and you do nothing, you will perish. You find yourself on the X, you better start doing something. as I like to say, start becoming an active participant in saving your own ass, right? And that might mean, what could I sell? How could I market? How could I change things? Like, we didn't know what the pandemic was going to bring us the next day. But we were just like, all right, we're going to create a new cleaning process, the way we clean our gyms. And then we're going to send it to the White House. Remember that? We created a whole document
Yes, we did.
on how to sanitize the clients and send it to the White House and said, hey, man, if you guys will, allow gyms to be open, here's a sanitation process that we think will kill 99.9% of COVID virus, da-da-da-da. White House obviously didn't respond. They had bigger fish to fry. But we were just like creating that, marketing this, trying to give a discount there. If you buy 3 months, you get 3 months free. You do whatever you can to survive, because it's like you're a duck on a lake, and the duck that's moving is not going to get eaten. A duck that's just sitting there passively, the crocodile's going to eat it right up, and that's the end of that. And so you're either going to be on the X and perish, or you're going to be on the X and start taking action towards saving your own ass, and you somehow end up surviving.
Be an active participant in saving your own ass.
Most people want to be saved, and so they just sit there
Yep.
during the disaster and just wait. Any day now, any minute now, the fire department, the ambulance, my mom, my big brother, my business partner will come and save me. No, how about you start saving yourself, and if someone else comes to help you, that's a blessing.
Boom, mic drop, my friend B. I think that was a beautiful bow in this beautiful episode. Anything else to add before I bring it home?
I think we crushed this one, man.
Dude. Well, my friends, assuming you got a ton of value, do two things. Like, subscribe, and drop your biggest takeaway in the comments. And while you're at it, drop your biggest piece of adversity that you overcame. Because let's face it, friends, adversity is your advantage. We'll see you in the next episode.